Welcome to season 2 of the Happy Sensory Corner podcast. As you know, at Mentability, we want to help everyone feel happier, more comfortable in their own skin, more confident. But especially we think of those who are vulnerable, those who struggle to be their true selves, to be proud of themselves. And so our contribution is to work on brain health because as our brains grow stronger, healthier, faster, all of that good stuff, all of us benefit, but especially those among us who struggle to sleep or sensory overload or struggle with their bodies, body awareness, self-awareness, and crippled with anxiety. And so we developed a gentle, family-centered program of whole brain games that boosts brain development and activates this brain's self-healing mechanisms. It's based on the neuroscience field of environmental enrichment, and we call it sensory enrichment. And so while we're experts in brain development, you may say, we know there is so much more that parents have to navigate when raising a child with special needs. And so today, we're going to explore how we can turn everyday routines that are typically long, stressful power struggles into moments of joy, into moments of relationship building. And I have a feeling that that is going to get everybody on the edge of their seats thinking, what is he talking about? How is he going to make that miracle happen? And so I'm really excited to discuss this today with Craig Parks. Craig Parks, let me formally introduce him, is a seasoned educator, musician, advocate. He's got over 30 years of experience working with children of all abilities. He's the creator of the Parenting A to E method. He's taught countless parents how to reduce stress and foster those deeper connections through, drumroll, music, but also play and intentional interaction. Craig's the father of two, including a son on the autism spectrum. He has a background as a professional musician that I explained, but he's also the founder of successful summer camps, and he's been sought after in conferences on inclusion, special needs. And I think what touched me the most of all this stuff is that Craig's methods emphasize three things that are very, very important for us at Mentability, and that's safety, that's love, and that's connection. And so, Craig, thank you for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. I'm honored to be here, Kim. Thank you for having me.
So, Craig, I'd like to know, I'd like to get a sense of why you are here today. What led you down this path? Did something happen to little Craig when he was a little boy that sort of planted the seed or got your brain wired in that way?
Yeah, so I grew up with listening to a lot of music. There was a lot of music in my home. And I think, my own relationship with my parents affected a lot of things. They're sweet, loving parents. My dad was not home a lot because he worked really, really hard, often 7 days a week. And he was often stressed. But one of the memories I do have with my dad is when he was there, he'd put on music, he'd hoist me up on his shoulders, and he would dance around the house with me. And I look back, I'm like, wow. So that is such a strong memory. And as a dad of two kids, and as certainly somebody who's put together summer camps and trained others to work with kids, I'm always thinking about how do we elevate a world that has more love and more connection so that we can build a world that's more peaceful and more beautiful and more joyful for everybody. And I know that music is a very, very powerful force to create this. And so when I was 10, I learned how to play piano, and then I picked up guitar when I was 17, and I just took to it, and I was pursuing a career in rock and roll. But I was really determined, in watching my dad work so hard and be so stressed. I think I was also determined to not be that stressed. I felt really a lot of compassion for him. And I wanted to also show kids that growing up didn't mean that you had to be stressed all the time. So, my love of working with kids, I became a camp counselor when I was like 19, 20 years old. And
hang on a second, I have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I snickered because, you talked about a career in rock and roll, and that sounded like an oxymoron for a split second. What happened between your love of rock and roll and pursuing this career in music, and then this, I think, a switch, like a split, a major difference in your career choice with to work with children.
Yeah, well, a good question. So when I graduated college, everybody else was going off to law school, and I just didn't have interest in becoming a lawyer. And so I thought, what am I going to do? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do what I love to do and trust in my journey. And at that time, I loved music and I loved working with kids. And so I started working at an after school program and did what I could. And I started song leading and doing music to support my rock and roll career. And eventually I ended up becoming a camp director as well. And in doing all this music with kids, I started doing mom and taught classes and started writing some more music as well. And the journey of being a music maker, performing music, was extraordinary. I just saw how powerful it was. And then I'd reflect also on my own experiences. First grade year. I don't know if you remember your first grade year. Most people don't. And if you were to ask me, like, do I remember the day-to-day of first grade? Not at all. But I'll tell you something I do remember. Mrs. Andrino, at the end of every single day, would sing the same song. So here I am, nearly 5 decades later, and I still remember this song from being a first grade boy. And I reflect on that. I'm like, wow, that is the power of music and the power of making memories with music. And so the course I developed, I want to give this tool to parents because in my own journey as a dad, I've written all these songs, and then most of them were in spontaneous moments of the everyday moments. And I was thinking that, when you think about memories of childhood, sometimes you'll think about the bigger trips you took or going to Disneyland. But the reality is most of parenting is not the day trip to Disneyland, right? It's the slog of waking them up. It's the putting them in bed. It's the getting meals, sitting down and eating with them. It's bathing them. It's washing hands, like all of these mundane things. And how do we make that memorable? How do we make that loving? How do we make that sweet and joyful? And music is one of the main things, but and that's how I came across this course. It originally started off as an album of what I thought was just kids' music, and then when I thought about these songs, I realized, wait a minute, these aren't kids. These aren't just kids' songs. These are actually parenting experiences. And so that's when it occurred to me, and I've been training people how to work with kids for decades. I'm going to put together a whole course. And that's how I came across and came up with Parenting A to E, from stress to smiles, turning the mundane into the memorable.
So what does A to E stand for?
Great question. So the A stands for affect and the E stands for effect. So if you want to get to the effectiveness of a loving, sweet, trusting, connected relationship, mastering the affect is one of the keys. And so what is affect? Affect is actually just the physical manifestations of our emotions that can be seen in our body language and in our voice. So when you think about when we're walking around this planet of ours, all we have to work with is this body that we have and the voice that we have. And if we learn how to use our body and our voice and the affect of our body and our voice effectively, our relationships will sweeten, they'll deepen, they'll get more loving and more trusting. And that's what the course is teaching. How do you use your facial expressions? How do you use your head? How do you use your shoulders? How do you use your body? Then how do you use your voice? And all the ways that one can use their voice to maximize connection. And when you become really intentional about the kind of relationship you want to have, you can then ask yourself, is doing this with my body or voice helping and being effective to create that, what I say I want to create?
I don't know what you're thinking about, Claudie, but I'm thinking about all the times when you've advised a parent to whisper, uh, uh, you know, One reason is to get them to stop yelling because, when a kid doesn't talk back, sometimes you tend to use your voice a bit more forcefully than you would with in a normal conversation, but also to experiment with different ways of using your voice. Um, why do you think the voice is so important, Claudie?
Well, we will go to research, and if you ask me a question, that's where I will take you. That's my sort of reason to be. And wonderful research has been done observing the brain of children when mothers speak. And the studies have been made with mothers probably because the typical situation worldwide is that mom is the one who spends the most time with the child. And depending on what mom is doing with her voice, the brain, we can have images of the brain responding differently. And one of the most powerful way for mom to use her voice with a child is singing. And it's not about singing well. I've had so many moms telling me that I don't know how to sing. And who cares? You're the only mom he owns. So he is going to love your singing. And thankfully, we work with people around the world where in those beautiful countries where it's very warm, Africa, India, moms do sing. As a cultural element of life, they sing to their kids. But that would be for children who do not have all the issues that the ones we work with. So moms forget to sing. But yeah, the research shows us the voice of mom and the voice of mom singing raises serotonin production release in the brain. It's better than medication. Some people will take medication to modify serotonin function. That's always artificial and doesn't have very good long-term effect. Serotonin is this molecule, this hormone in our brain between cells that tells us, calm down, be peaceful, sleep well. Eat properly, like all these things that you're talking about that can be chores. The singing voice of mom is giving one tool to the child that is a biochemistry tool, which is serotonin.
So, there's a strong emphasis on your memory with your dad and the music and you're a dad. Have you seen a difference between dads singing, dads playing music, and moms singing, moms playing music, Craig?
I think what Claudia's talking about here is, I think the research would show that if a parent is really involved with their child, whether it's a mom or a dad, that child is going to know that voice and hear that voice, and it'll be a voice of comfort. I was talking to my kids in utero, and I was getting out my guitar and singing to them in utero, and the moment they come out, I'm just talking to them, being with them all the time. That I understand that my voice is a voice of comfort. And one of the things, Claudia, that I've heard too from parents is like, well, I can't sing, I don't have a good voice. And I really want to emphasize, just what you just said is, and when I tell them, your little boy or girl, your little child is not being a music critic. That your voice to them is the voice of love. And so when you're singing, even if you're a little off pitch, they're not hearing that. They're hearing love, and they're feeling attention in your loving energy. That supersedes any pitch that you may or may not hit during a melody. So the power of singing to your kid will override your self-criticism. And as a parent, when you sing to them, and even if you're feeling self-conscious, you're role modeling for them what it means to be free and to be expressive and to not shut yourself down, which is a really beautiful thing to role model for our children.
Yeah, when parents, the ones we talk to often have non-speaking children, and they come to us and say, "I want my child to speak to me." And they often forget that means that they have to speak back. Because a child doesn't speak to them, they turn every conversation, well, they stop conversing. They just speak out transactional questions, requests, instructions, go do this, go fetch this. There's it's so this two-way communication disappears. But it's do you work, how do you train parents to go back to this? Because it feels very natural, when I hear you talking about moms or dads singing and you talk about babies, I'm seeing babies. I'm seeing babies nursing. I'm seeing babies on laps. I'm seeing babies being cuddled to sleep, rocked to sleep. And this dream that parents had, they grieve it now because it's 8 years later, 9 years later, 10 years later, and the child never develops speaking. And usually there's some other conditions that come, some other difficulties. How do you help parents get back to this original dream?
I don't know if I help parents get back to an original dream. I think if anything, what I do is I help parents create a new dream, because the original dream, when you find out you're going to become a parent, you start having all these visions of what it's going to be. And the shock to the system, at least, I'll speak personally for me, when we got the at-risk for autism diagnosis when my son was just maybe 15, 16 months old, was, for both my wife and I, it was shocking. And then when we got the official diagnosis too, it's like you realize, oh, this vision I had that I thought when my wife was pregnant, that's not going to be this journey. And so to try to get back to that, there is no getting back to that. That's not what it's going to be. I think it's really important to get to the point where you're like, okay, well, what can it be? Because this is who I have now. And at that point, my son wasn't speaking. He is verbal now. He didn't start speaking till he was well past the age of 2. So I didn't know when we got that diagnosis, would I ever hear my own child say, "I love you," or say the word "daddy"? And those are scary times. And I'm grateful that my son does speak, and I get to hear that every day. He's about to turn 21 now. But those were hard times. And before my son was verbal, we worked with a lot of specialists, as you can imagine. And this is part of where I came up with the affect. Like, the specialists told us that, look, he's not going to talk to you, so you got to get into his world. One of the ways that to get into his world was to show big affect, right, in my facial expressions. So that if he's playing with an action figure, or even if he's just lining it up, can I go and next to him and just be and do some parallel play and line it up too? And when he does something, to just go, and if that alone gets his attention in that moment, there's connection, even without words. So when you say there's no two-way communication, maybe there's no two-way verbal communication, but there's still two-way communication. And every human being is craving connection. So the affect is a way there. And so that's what I want parents to get in this course, is that you can use your affect, you can use your body and your voice to really achieve that connection. And then the other parts of the course are with the music and then activities. And then I've got some bonus materials around bedtime rituals and bath time rituals. And also there's a piece of prose I wrote called The Glider that I wrote when we had to get rid of this glider that I rocked both my children on. And my kids are 10 and a half years apart. So I had this glider for a lot of years. And for whatever reason, I got very emotional about having to get rid of this glider. And I wrote a piece of prose from the perspective of the glider. And when I posted it many, many years ago, it got a lot of reaction. It was very emotional. And to really hone in on the fact that time goes like this, our kids grow up fast. And so if we could be really present with them and build great, joyful, loving, connecting memories with them, let's take advantage of this time, because before we know it, we blink. And like I said, I can't believe my son is about to turn 21 on the 20th of January. So I don't want parents of young kids to blink their eyes and miss out on opportunities to build joyful connections in the mundane of parenting, the putting them down for bedtime or giving them a bath or washing their hands or, having them eat a banana. I mean, I wrote a song for bananas, right? So these mundane things and then can be elevated so that when our kids grow up and look back, they're gonna have really sweet memories.
So
I
tell me, I have a question about the bedtime routine.
Mhm.
So what happens in what you train to the parents to do?
Well, one of the things that I train is the importance of ritual. Like that's really, really important, certainly for kids with special needs. So there's structure and there's predictability, which will help lower anxiety with anything. Um, and so there's several rituals that I do with my kids. Not with Jonah anymore. He's 21. He doesn't live with us anymore. But even still with my daughter. So my program is really for parents of young kids, 0 to 5, but it's very interesting because a lot of the activities I have in the course and some of the rituals, my daughter still asks for. She still wants. Some are not really developmentally there because she's growing, but some like she's still asking for. One of the things in the bedtime rituals, which my daughter's 10, she still wants and loves and craves because it's so connecting. So there's a song. There used to be, when she was younger, it was a book, there was a song, then there's a gratitude practice, and then there's a thing which she still wants called Hopes for Dreams. And it's a very silly thing. I'm like, all right, do you want to hear my hopes for your dreams tonight? She's like, yeah. And I'll come up with stories and the wildest, craziest imaginative stories. And then they always end with, and then all of a sudden you open your eyes and it's Tuesday morning, so, and it's very, very sweet and always a hug and a kiss. And the lullaby that is part of the A to E course offers opportunities within the song to give a hug and to give a kiss as well. So there's a lot of affection there, a lot of closeness. And if there's parents that are listening to this going, well, I can't just come up with stories. In my course, I actually have a template to teach, this is how you do it. And this is how you can come up with your stories so it's all teachable. I don't want any parents thinking, one, that, well, I can't sing. Like we talked about that. I don't have a good voice. You don't need a good voice. And I don't want parents thinking, well, I'm not creative. No, everybody is creative and there are ways that you can do it. And I teach how to do this.
And Claudia, how does that compare to the bedtime routine that you recommend to parents?
Well, it's really a demonstration that the important thing work. I recommend there is one thing that seems to be missing, but is there in your bedtime, which is a foot massage. We recommend foot massage again because research has shown they did. That's amazing. I think it's really lovely when researchers look for something that is cute and is going to make people's life better. Sometimes it's animal lives, but getting better. And they found that when you give someone any age a foot massage, the brain produces oxytocin. And for some of the children on the spectrum in particular, their brain does not produce it. It's a flaw. Nobody really has studied why it's happening. We just know they don't. So you can make the brain produce this wonderful hormone, which is love, affection, connection. That's absolutely the scientific name of all of that. And so you promote hugs and kisses and cuddle. That's a little bit the same, right? When we have a wonderful, lovely contact, we have parents read to the children to bathe them with words. So I have had parents say, I will tell stories, and I love that. My take on having them read is that I want to bathe the children with new words because our families tend to always say the same thing to the children,
Mm.
not use complicated or sophisticated words because the child may not understand, and the communication is very often has to be practical. If you say something, you want your child to understand. So the words are there, the music. We have either the mom to sing or dad sing, but we play orchestral music. And that again for the biochemistry of the brain, raising serotonin and dopamine before sleep. So it's not a very big difference. I think the result is really similar. Children are feeling really good.
I wonder if we should push more for the parents singing, because I don't think we emphasize that too much. We try to make it easy and practical for the parents, and we say just make sure there's some music that's listened to. But I wonder if we could combine the benefits of the bonding that happens, because that's what parents crave, is this, it's creating an emotional connection or creating an environment where speaking to one another is an emotional experience, not a transaction. So the
Mm-hmm.
reading is great, but I wonder if the singing, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. What do you think? Sorry, that's a question
Yeah,
to Claudia. We're
who?
having an internal conversation here. Sorry, Craig,
Yeah, no
about our
problem.
program.
No problem. On a technical note, I need to go plug my computer in, so I'm just going to just take like.
Okay, I'll talk as you
Okay,
go.
okay, that'd be great. I'll be right
No,
back. I'm so sorry.
we'll wait because then I can splice easily.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thank
No
you.
problem.
All right. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Welcome back. Yeah, no worries.
So
So
talking
I
about,
was apologizing
oh,
for, having an internal conversation with Claudia about our program.
yes, and you did not even let me finish what I had to say, so let me go for it. With mendability, all the exercises are extremely short, extremely simple, and all of them are redesign of research protocols. There is not one exercise that one day I thought, oh, that's a good idea, let's try. So when we go to using music, it's because there is so much research done on the impact on the brain of orchestral music. There
Mm.
is a research on the impact of voice and singing, but maybe not as abundant. So I really tend to use things that have extremely strong research base so that people feel confident that, okay, it's not just a goof thing. It is very scientific based, but this is what you do
Mm.
as well. Greg, like you are a very serious person and you build and creating a course is really ideal because then you know you are not forgetting something when you're teaching a family. They all get the essence and the understanding, and that is a scientific work as a definition.
Thank you. And I know that parents are overwhelmed too. And so the way I designed the course is that the first module is teaching the affect, teaching how to use the body and the voice. But all the videos, they're 2 to 5 minutes. I know the parents don't have time to sit and watch an hour-long video, so they can watch this little 2 minute, 5 minute video and then immediately put it into practice. And then the second module with all the songs, I have a lyric sheet and connection points on how to use the songs, and a video as well, explaining the song. So, and then they get the actual recording of the song as well. So, and they can use just the recording, but I really encourage parents, because like you said, Claudia, like the parent's voice is the important one, right? They could just use my recording, use my voice, but my hope is that parents will learn these songs and sing them themselves to their kids. And again, most of these songs I wrote in the moment without an instrument in my hands. You know, the recording has instruments behind it, but most of these songs were written with me just giving my kid a bath or giving them a banana or, you know, laying down to put them down at night, sing these lullabies. So I want parents to really understand that their voice is so important and that this course is designed to make it really easy for them to learn and put it into practice right away so they can start getting the benefits of this loving, sweet, trusting connection.
How big a role does nonverbal communication play in your program? You know, I'm thinking about, you know, you talked about shoulders, you talked about the way you lean your head. I'm thinking, Claudia, about all the times when you tell the parents to sort of crouch and go eye level instead of, you know, having this big giant screaming and scaring the kids into submission. And so, yeah, so how big of a role does nonverbal communication play?
Well, I think all of the affect will come into play with that. So one of the very first lessons I actually teach in the course, here's a little giveaway here, is really what you just said, and that is lowering your body. Just that alone. And so many people who maybe have never worked with kids, it wouldn't even occur to them. And I know, you know, one frustration point for a lot of parents is that if they're yelling across a room for their kid and they want their kid to do something, they're just not getting the level of cooperation they're seeking. And oftentimes, if they just move to the child, lower their body and get eye contact, like eye level, if they just get eye level and get down, it makes a huge difference. It will up the level of connection and cooperation. I mean, think about if you walked out your door and somebody came to you and they were like 9'8" and they were towering over you and talking to you, that's intimidating and that could be scary. And for our little children, that's what they're dealing with adults all the time, is people towering over them. But when somebody lowers themselves to you and you're just eye level, it is a huge effect when you have that level of affect. And so it's a mindfulness practice. And it does, so the nonverbal really plays a huge part in our relationships.
Yeah, I use centimeters, and I tell parents, imagine a person 3 meters high. I don't know if that turns into the size you mentioned.
That's about 9 feet, yeah.
There you go. We know.
The There's a couple of directions we could go here. I wonder if I'd like to. Here's an idea. Tell us about one of the songs. But maybe let's pick a song that our audience is going to want more than others. And you can tell us if it's appropriate to go straight into that song or you tell us. But all those mundane moments that to a parent with a neurotypical child, you know, we talk about missing out on opportunities to connect. But with a child who is nonverbal, a child with autism, it's not that you missed out because you were not intentional. Is you missed out because the child has not developed those feelings, those desires to bond, this understanding of the social connections, and even their own self-awareness is not there. So you know, those mundane moments of daily hygiene, the kid has no idea why he has to wash his hands, no idea why they have to go shower, no idea why this rough rubbing of this prickly thing in their mouth, why is that such a big deal? And why do I have to do that every single day? You know, it's a horrible experience. Why does my mom make me do that? How do you turn brushing teeth from a horror and a power struggle into, how can you elevate to the experience?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. You know, I want to be sensitive, and I don't want to sit here and say that this is going to solve all of those problems for every parent, because every situation is unique. I know that music is a really powerful force, and I know that it actually did help and does help a lot of parents who I've worked with to be able to have those moments be gentler. Like even something like bathtub, if there's sensory things going on with that, they certainly need to be addressed. But if a child knows that getting into a bath, all of a sudden they're going to get some really focused attention from their parents, and and you're singing scrub, scrub, scrub in the tub, scrub, 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 scrub in the tub. And this song also takes you through, gonna wash your feet and hands, and it takes them through the body, right? And so as you're washing those parts, you're singing about those parts. And as a child listens to that song, again, rituals are really, really important. But if you're singing this song every time they get into the bathtub, they start understanding, okay, this is going to happen. There's a predictability to it that the music helps serve. They know that in the song, when they hear that, then they know that the next up is their legs are going to be washed next. They know that their shoulders are going to be washed next. So the music helps the kid know, anticipate, and hopefully lower their anxiety, because they know this is what's happening next. And when you sing the same song in the same order, right? So the scrub in the tub has the exact order of how you're going to be washing the different body parts. Then the kid doesn't have to wonder, well, what's going to get wet next, or what's going to get scrubbed next. So it may not solve all of the sensory issues, but I believe it does actually help lower the anxiety by increasing the level of predictability and knowledge, plus the tenderness and sweetness of a caring parent who's actually doing this and the connection that happens there.
Claudia,
Yeah.
when we use the bath, sometimes we say don't make a big deal of the bathtub because we don't want the bath experience to be a stressful experience. We just want them to experience the warmth and relax and maybe not even wash. How do you feel about, singing through? Because the parents want the kids to wash.
Well, it gives an explanation. That probably the child still doesn't know why the parent is doing it, but now it's fun. And there is a song, and we're talking about that part of the body. I think if you have experienced and you have returns of parents saying, yeah, it is really helpful. It's a great idea. Like bringing again, like you were talking about the effect and having the parent give something else than let's wash, let's be clean, but rather let's sing and let's show. And I could hear two different types of rhythm depending on what they are washing. So it's very, very interesting. The elements we bring to the bath is music being played, or is absolutely a scent in the bathtub, in the bathroom. So you are using music, voice in a very, very interesting way.
So, if we want to go back a little bit to this situation where children are non-speaking, and we want to create an environment where the child learns that the voice is something that you use when you want to connect emotionally. We talked about how we can make that happen at bedtime with a ritual that involves singing, storytelling, maybe, well, not maybe, both, storytelling for sure. Are there, and then we talked about using songs during mundane daily activities. Is there another context where you would recommend using the voice as a way to create an emotional bond again, trying to teach parents to give more tools than just, I'm going to use my voice to transact with my child. There are times during the day that are not a mundane daily task, or you know what, maybe it's all mundane daily tasks.
Yeah, how you define mundane or not, it might be different for each family, right? Um, I think we've all heard stories of people as adults who share heartbreakingly that they never heard their mom or they never heard their dad say the words, "I love you," And so in terms of something that's just not a daily mundane thing to do, I think just on a daily level, just remembering to be present to the love that you have for your child and to remind them of how much you love being their parent. I just with heartfelt voice to say, "I love you so much. You are amazing. You are such a blessing. It is so awesome to be your dad." These are phrases that I say to my kids, and I feel it, like it is so real. And so that's using my voice that isn't associated with a task or something to do. I just want them to know. I just want to be able to use this body and this voice to maximize love and connection and trust. And I want them to be able to know that they can come to me and that if they're struggling, that they're not alone in the world. So it doesn't always have to be, I have a wake up song and I have a song for eating bananas and I've got a lullaby for bedtime. but I also have songs just to play, right? And there's a song that I wrote called "Dancing on Daddy's Shoulders," which if people go to parentingharmony.com, they can just get that song for free. And it includes a video of me explaining the song. It's the song itself, and then there's a PDF with the lyrics and connection tips on how to use it. So that's not necessarily, a task that you're going to do, but if you have time and you can play with your kid, play with your kid. Like, don't just get through tasks, but also play. And there's songs in my course that are just for playing. I have a song called Bubbles. So let your kid play with bubbles. And then when you do, put a song with it so that's going to have even stronger memories attached with it. So Dancing on Daddy's Shoulders, it would be a great example of that, and you can always alter it to Dancing on Mommy's Shoulders. It doesn't matter. You can alter the words to, if having them on your shoulders is, you're not able to do that, dancing in Daddy's
Maybe
arms.
not with a 21-year-old.
Oh yeah, certainly that. Yeah. He could probably raise me up on his shoulders at this point. But yeah, so using the voice isn't just in tasks. It's being mindful of your affect and knowing how to use your voice in your body in any given moment. It's, I'm a meditator, so I meditate every day, and I run meditation groups as well. And meditation is not about clearing your mind. Meditation, is my understanding, is about being present in your life. And the more we can be present, the more we can understand how to use our affect, our body and our voice to maximize love, connection, and sweetness.
I wanted to talk about rhythm, but I feel like we've peaked. I think that we've reached a high moment of emotion and intensity, and I don't want to ruin it by talking about technical stuff like rhythm, because I know rhythm plays a big role in the type of music that we play for certain types of exercises, and I wanted to have a geeking out around that. So I'm going to do two things now, and I'm going to edit one of those out. I'm going to ask you what you have to say about rhythm. And if it's worth it, I'll include it at the end of the podcast. If not, we're going to end on this glorious note. And I'm going to wish everybody a blessed week.
Thank you.
So let's try this. Craig, tell us about the role that rhythm and different types of rhythm play in affect.
Yeah, so thank you. That's a great question. One thing that my wife would often do at bedtime is she would remind me, don't get them ramped up Craig, and rhythm, right, can create high energy, and rhythm can also help create much more mellow feel, right? Because there could be really high intensity rhythm, boom, boom, bam, bam, boom, boom, and but there could be music, there could be rhythm that's much more mellow and chill. And one of the songs that I wrote is called "Give and Get." And I wrote it for my son, and I really wrote it for the world's population to have greater empathy towards anybody with special needs. And the song I brought to camp as well, it's called "Give and Get." And in there is also about that when you look at it, all of us have special needs, right? It might be different for some people need more sleep than others. Some people have nut allergies. Some people, there's all sorts of needs that each of us have. Like we all do, if we can have compassion. So this song, I really want to get the message out on this song so that people could build their compassion and empathy for others on the spectrum and anybody who has special needs. And I built it as, to get back to rhythm, it's a very, very upbeat, really fun song. And so at camp, it's a song that like gets people up and moving. And in the course, it's a song I want parents to love listening to, but it's one ultimately I want them to be dancing to. So rhythm is going to dictate how we move our bodies. Quicker tempo, we're going to be moving with that tempo. So rhythm can help create moods and feeling. And when we're aware of that, if we want to get ourselves energized, more upbeat rhythms. When we want to get ourselves a little more calm, then more mellow rhythms. So rhythm can help create how our internal state is going to be as well. So great question.
I was asking you because I know rhythm plays a big role in sensory enrichment games that we get the families to play together. Claudia, what were you trying to achieve with upbeat music? Because I think you say for some exercises, add this, find a piece of upbeat music. What we're trying to achieve?
Well, it's going with what we know of the importance of sound and movement. And in reality, the deeper consequence of playing happy, joyful, paced music is changing the heart rate. So if our heart rate is accelerated, the muscles get more energy, the body is more prone to move and follow the rhythm of the song. So I think you have to listen to your wife and and make sure that it's a slow pace so that the breathing system and the heart are going to follow that. And it's helpful for sleep. And as far as our exercises with balance and all kinds of gross motor combinations, pacing will modify the speed of walking of the child or the speed of getting down an obstacle. So that's my take.
Yeah,
And I assure you that the lullaby I wrote is quite mellow.
Good. I'm sure it is. You're an experienced person.
I was thinking, thinking about this episode and music. There's this one, and I know, Claudia, that in the video where he explained why we integrate music in a lot of our protocols, one of the studies that touched you at the time was that video of that person that had Parkinson's who started moving when music was playing. And they were talking about maybe a memory connection, but in the video you talked about the impact on, was it motivation or motor control? What was it?
It's movement control. The music is impacting the release of dopamine and controlling and improving the release of dopamine. And in the case of Parkinson's, but it's also the case in dementia, dopamine vanishes from the brain. So they can no longer, their brain is no longer in charge of the movement of the body. What has been a great difficulty for me is to look at those videos done very often by nurses or doctors in a clinic that's not very famous or wealthy. So it's an experiment. It's not widespread where we could help so many more people. And so meeting someone like you, Greg, is a joy because you are spreading the good news of music with all the attached pieces that you combine that help the family so much. So, yeah, music and movement are crucial.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Craig and Clodie, for joining us and talking about the power of music to create this deep sense of connection that parents long to have, especially with children who haven't developed fully their self-awareness and these desires and feelings for social connection. I think this is going to be really powerful for all our audience, and I can't wait for them to listen.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And I want to offer if any of your listeners do want to get the course, Parenting A to E, then if they write to me at craigparks@parentingharmony.com and they say that they heard this through Mendability, I will give them $100 off the course and help them
Wow.
out in that way. So I just want to put that out there to your listeners. And I want to thank both you, Kim, and Claudie for really an extraordinary time. It's been really an honor to be with both of you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Have a blessed week.
Bye.